Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Ask Kate, where Kate's back from a nice holiday that she had, feeling refreshed, getting lots of sunshine and eating lots of yummy pro-metabolic food and sugar. And
And sugar.
and sugar. And, I was just saying to Kate that, I just cop so much grief over my posts on Facebook around sugar and how bad sugar is, and sugar causes diabetes. So I wanted to just talk to Kate today and discuss sugar. What is sugar? Where did this I guess fear of sugar initially come from? And just, I think, break down some of the misconceptions around sugar and how you should be and can include it in your diet. Yeah, Kate, where should we even start? We were talking about that Robert Lustig, that study that he did with the rats and I think that was probably a big one.
He was all on fructose. So he went to the whole thing that basically fructose was causing all of these issues. And so basic Lustig is, he did the bitter truth or bittersweet truth, and basically talks really horribly about fructose causing fatty liver and cancer and everything. And you basically, when you did look at his research, first of all, it was primarily on rats, and rat studies are good information, as we know, but they cannot translate into what it happens into a human. It just can't do it, but it basically does give us some sort of idea of how the metabolic processes of these foods work. However, fructose in a rat works very differently than fructose in a human. Rats will convert about 50% of that into fat, whereas humans might convert under 2%. And so it's a different process. Anyways, from that conclusion, he created this, as we know, of YouTube that went viral. And I think that could have started the really hatred and, thought process of how sugar is so horribly bad for us. And I think, again, like most things, right, we take everything out of context. And if a lot is really bad for us, then that means zero should be the best for us. And that is just not true at all when it comes to foods, especially, again, I'm not ever telling anybody they need to consume pounds of white table sugar. Again, it can be used as a energy food. I mean, it's nutritionally low. And so for that is one reason we don't really say consume tons of it unless you really, really need it for energy. But, as far as sugar as a food that is good for us, especially foods that contain natural sugars like fruits and roots and milk and honey, they're our best source of energy. They always will be. That's how the body runs best physiologically. If you study human physiology, that's how it runs. We can change it. Our body is super awesome and cool, and we can use other resources to fuel ourselves. But sugar, glucose is always our best resource. And so when we get into this thought process that sugar is horribly bad for us and it's going to kill us, and we just say, I'm going to completely not consume it now and avoid all things with it, we are doing a great disservice to our body, our physiology, our metabolism, and how our health is going to be.
And
that was a lot.
Yeah. you were probably back when, I was under the impression that, I couldn't eat sugar, was bad, it was going to poison me, and I didn't understand basic physiology. And so I wouldn't eat fruit, I wouldn't eat dairy, anything that had any sort of sugar in it. I cut it out completely from my diet. And it's interesting because, white sugar is from a plant. It's just refined. It's sucrose, it's glucose and fructose. It gets all broken down in the body in the same thing. The only difference is it just doesn't have any nutrients in it. So, people go, look, there's probably, if you were said from today, I'm not going to eat any white sugar, that's probably not going to be a big issue as long as you drink fruit and, you eat fruit, drink juice, dairy, like the things that you talked about. But then I think it's people go so far and they go, I'm not going to eat fruit, I'm not going to drink juice, I'm not going to eat any dairy because it's got sugar in it, which is just crazy because you're missing out on all those beautiful nutrients too that those foods contain. And like you said, the energy and the sugar. And, now that I include those things in my diet, I feel so much better. And then also, having some white sugar in a nutrient-rich diet free from digestive inhibitors is fine. People get so wired up about, you're having a sugar in your coffee, or you're having, you make these sweet condensed milk balls, but it's I have 2 in the afternoon, and then the rest of my diet is fruit and honey and all the things that you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that everybody you have to take every person into consideration, because I know you experience this as well. As I certainly have people that say I'm a sugar addict. If I have sugar, then I just eat all of it and I gain weight, and this is what happens to me. So I have to avoid it. And as we both said, people feel better when they avoid all sugar foods, right? So what we have learned, and I know what we've discussed, every conversation I've had with someone that's told me that, they are usually avoiding sugar-filled foods like cakes and candies and cookies and all of these high satiating foods that are easily to overconsume. They're usually going to dysregulate your blood sugar because they're a high amount of sugar and fat, and usually the fat in them is like vegetable oil or something that's also horribly bad for them, and then there's a ton of flour. So that food is going to give you all sorts of dysregulation, and it tastes good, so it's really easy to overconsume it, and you're getting, very little nutritional value with that kind of food, if you're eating it as the main kind of foods that you're getting sugar sources from. So yes, if you avoid all those foods, because you're going to be avoiding vegetable oil and flour, and then your blood sugar might regulate better, you're going to feel better. But don't take it to this whole nother level where you're going to avoid all foods that contain sugar, because if one sugar is bad, they're all bad. And, again, we have to get back and understand how our physiology works, that we are meant to utilize sugars as energy. And so, what we've done, though, in the food manufacturing industry is created tons and tons of sweet foods with lots of good fats and everything else. And yeah, we overeat them. We are over-consuming these types of foods, and that's what's causing the problem. And then the researchers say, we did this, study, we looked at all these people, they're consuming whatever pounds of sugar and so forth, and fat and all these other things, and just overeating overall, and they're gaining weight. So this is why it's bad for you and we should avoid it, without putting it into context. And so, everything has context to it. And so, I know me and you, when we're telling people, when we say things like, no, these need to be primarily the main part of your diet. And if you understand that this is what your body needs, your sugar addiction will go away without going to rehab.
Yeah. So it's like, think about it. Your body's not going to, like, people go, it's poison. Why would your body crave something that was poison? It's like you only crave that crappy that's going to kill you. Like you once you fill your diet with enough carbs and sugar, like, I don't binge eat anymore. Ever.
Right. And I think that's the thing, because, anyone that has been addicted to drugs, we all know that there is a addiction and our body craves that, right? So that would be considered a bad addiction. And, so, however, when you have more drugs, you crave more drugs. That's just how it works. When you have more sugars, provided that they're giving you nutrition and they're balanced properly with things like fats and proteins, what happens is you don't crave more. You feel satiated, and as long as you're consuming enough through the day, instead of wanting constantly, mostly what I find is I don't have that binge anymore, or I don't feel this craving at night to have a piece of cake. It's like I don't have to use willpower anymore to not consume these foods, because I just don't crave it. And that's what happens, right? So that's what it's saying. This isn't like an addiction, because if it was, the more you had to have it, the more you crave it, and again, that can happen if you're eating the wrong types. But again, and I know that you've experienced this, when you start giving yourself the fruits, the juice, and balancing it, that all goes away, and you'll find that you're consuming way more sugar foods like fruits and stuff. And then when you want a piece of cake, you eat, your piece, and that's it. You're done, because that body is now used to utilizing lots of sugar sources as energy. And so when you give even something like cake, it doesn't get all out of balance, and you can stay within your parameters of eating, and there's never those times that you're going to be binging or overeating or any of that stuff starts happening.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, like I'll make different things, like the white chocolate fudge, with condensed milk and whatever, and good quality chocolate, and the condensed milk fruit balls. And it's like having some of those yummy things in your diet. Like, you never feel like, it's not as like you eat them at every meal. You might have them at one meal with a cup of coffee or something. And I always think to people like, oh, how do you stop? I'm like, well, because I just eat all this nice food that I like all the time, and I eat till I feel satisfied, because I know that this is not the last time that I'm ever going to eat this food. And then I'll get to the next meal and think, oh, I really feel like some potato with salt and butter and fish and juice or whatever. It's not like I think, oh, gee, I want to eat fudge. at every fucking meal. You know, it's like, it's people, oh, it's just, it's like, have balance, have a balance.
It is. Yeah. But I mean, I totally resonate with that because I was how I was. I'm sure it's probably how you were when I avoided it so much. I mean, especially if I ever dieted down for like photos or whatever I was trying to achieve. And I mean, when that photo shoot was done, I would eat, I mean, the amount of carbohydrates I had consumed because I deprived myself so long, my body was just ravenous, you know, and I would eat everything. I mean, peanut butter jelly sandwiches and bars and cake and whatever I could get a hold of. And I couldn't stop. And honestly, you know, I would physically feel full, but my blood sugar was so out of whack, you know, because my body didn't even know how to metabolize all this. So when I was probably doing it, it was just probably getting through my system. I was spiking insulin. I couldn't utilize it. It was, you know, I was probably putting on weight real fast as well because my body wasn't used to consuming it. And I just got into that, you know, as many people have and many fitness people have, is that hamster wheel where you're just avoiding, over-consuming, way over-consuming, put on weight, avoiding, and then repeating that cycle continually, where that cycle never will end and it never works long-term, ever. And until you give your system exactly what it needs, like in the right dosages through the day, then you will find happiness. That's where nirvana is in the sugar world. And then you can have white sugar, and then you can have those things in your coffee and all those things, you know? I mean, those are totally fine. Absolutely.